Hey, it's your girl, Nay, coming to you with another episode of As Told by Nay, the podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and let's talk about it. Hey, it's your girl, Nay, coming to you with another episode of As Told by Nay, the podcast. Happy Thursday to everyone. Hope everyone's having a great day thus far. I say this every week. My Thursdays are crazy, but I'm here. I know that once I get to this part of the show, this part of my day, it's winding down. My conversations are always fun for me. And then I get to go home and that's the end of my day. So in this space, I'm good. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good.
All right. So last week we had a very fun topic. We were talking about social media and the swipe culture. Tonight we're going to get a little more serious, as I sometimes do. I have Mr. GA here who is going to have this conversation with me. You guys have asked for more of this conversation with the climate that we are in, so we're going to talk about it. If you would like, let the people know who you are, a little bit about yourself.
I'm GA Gipson. I'm originally from South Sarasota County. Been in law enforcement for about 13 years. And been around the world fighting for our country. So I'm just glad to be back here and glad to be doing what I'm doing.
Oh, so you were in the service as well.
I was in the Marines.
Oh, okay. So we can attack this conversation from a couple of different angles. Great.
Anxious to get started.
Great. All right. So before we jump into it, we're about to take these shots.
All right.
You let me know what we're toasting to this evening.
Oh, we toasted to being blessed.
I would definitely drink to that. I normally do not shot dark.
That's my drink, though.
Because I can feel it here. And it sits for a minute. All right. You did not get to prepare for this part, though. Before we start the conversation, I'm going to hit you with 4 random questions. I like to call this segment, Excuse Me, Come Again. Answer as honestly as possible. And, nothing too crazy, but just a little bit of an icebreaker, if we may.
Okay.
So, question number 1, and I saw this on Facebook, Instagram, one of them things. It was a conversation that came up just because I know you have a child. As a parent, your kid has other siblings outside of you. Maybe they attend the same school, or maybe they have the same function. Are you picking up your kid and dropping them off home while leaving the other siblings because they're not your kids? Or how are you handling that as a parent?
It's so funny. I've seen that post straight up. I would definitely pick up my kids' siblings.
Okay.
However, I would like to know the situation behind. If it's that other sibling's family member or father is coming to get them, or et cetera, you just can't pick them up and run.
Right.
You got to know what's going on. You got to let that kid know, hey, tell your mama, come in with me. Or tell me what's going on. I don't want to look like I'm kidnapping nobody else's kid. So.
Key word there, or key.
It's communicate.
Communication. Yeah. Yes. Like,
have
a conversation. I know a lot of people where that conflict comes when there's that toxicity between the kid's parents. Like, you don't want to have the conversation, or you just don't have the conversation because y'all don't get along. But I feel like kids are innocent.
Yeah, they ain't got nothing to do with it ain't right.
The kids are innocent. Yeah, you take them kids and drop them. All of it's not that big of a deal.
No, especially if your daughter's going to the same spot. Don't make them never mind. Go ahead.
Exactly. Leave their ass at the school. That's terrible.
Now, that's just my opinion. I'm going to preface everything I say as my opinion because certain situations may be different. You drop the other kid off with your kid, you might get into it with your baby mama.
It's terrible.
Nobody want to deal with that. So
yeah. So yeah, I thought that was a very interesting conversation. I was kind of going through the comments like people are funny. People are definitely funny. Okay, so question number two. What was the question I have? Question number two. Oh yes. If you could leave here and go and live anywhere else in the world, where would you go?
DC.
DC? Anywhere else in the world, you would
Okay.
stay in the States and go to DC.
Well, correction. All right, I'll probably go to the homeland, stay for a while. But from where I've been, and I love DC.
Why? What do you love about DC?
Just the culture, the folks, the people, the sisters.
Okay.
It's Chocolate City for a reason.
Okay. DC, going to DC. All right. Question number three. How many times is too many times to shoot your shot?
Oh man, I put up a post a while back saying shooting your shot is overrated.
Overrated.
It's an overrated experience. It really is. Oh. I would say, I mean, if you ain't got the hint, like if she playing with you, because y'all do a lot of that playing. They don't really be knowing, y'all don't really be secure when they turn down somebody, but I don't know, man, you gotta feel it. As a dude, you gotta know. You feel it. That girl is just straight up like, hey, bro. Just go on with that. You gotta know it. All right, or she ain't feeling you. Let it go. But if she like, no, not right now, she playing with you, bro. Go ahead, keep going.
Somebody said unlimited.
Unlimited.
And somebody else said till you win the game. I'm here for that.
What's that saying? You miss every shot you don't take.
Right.
Hey man.
Shooters shoot. Somebody told
Fire
me
away.
that. Shooters shoot.
Fire away. You just gotta know better though. She's saying, let it go, bro. Let it go. She ain't
take a hint. Now, if we directly telling you stop, stop, then just stop.
Yeah.
Okay. And then question number 4: what are you looking forward most to this summer? Any trips planned? Any functions you're going to?
This summer? Summer's practically over, but I'm planning on going to Mexico here in October for my birthday. But that's about it right now.
What part of Mexico?
Tulum.
Okay. Everybody's been going to Tulum lately. I've never been. Definitely on my list of places to go. Let me know how that is. All right. So, see, not so bad, right?
No,
a little icebreaker there. So, okay. If I had to give tonight's conversation a title, I would call it Hands Up. And I'm calling it Hands Up because we're definitely going to get into this current state of the world, really, because I can't even say in this country because it's happening everywhere. People are acting like race is not a thing, right? People are acting like police brutality is not a thing. People are acting like this is some far off, made up situation. So we're going to get into the man that is GA because he's also in law enforcement, but he's a man. And as you can see, he's an African American man. So we're going to talk about it and we're going to get into it straight out of the gate. Why law enforcement? Like, what took you into, because you said you were also a Marine. So
still never
got it.
Yeah.
So why serve and protect?
Oh man. Well, to be honest with you, coming from my neighborhood, come from Laurel, being a cop was never part of the plan. We had some rough times in my neighborhood, especially with the very department that I work for. But I had some mentors.
Okay.
And I had a few friends who guided me, and I trusted their leadership and understanding. And when I came back from the deployments, my mentor was there.
Okay.
And he guided me, and he made a good argument for the ability to impact change.
Okay. Be the change you want to see, something like that.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we've all heard that a time or two.
At the time, it's funny, got a lot of brothers and sisters. I was working for the city of Sarasota at the water plant.
Okay.
For a while. And They came to me. He came to me like he saw me out there, laying pipe. And he's like,
Ba-dum, bum.
yeah. And he was like, well, what you doing? He pulled me aside. We had lunch or whatever. And he just told me, you want to be a difference. You want to make that difference. You want to make that change. You want to be a part of something different or big. Here's an opportunity.
Okay.
And I took it.
Okay.
So I'm never one to shy away from a challenge. So here we go.
Do you feel like you have been able to act in that light though? Like do you feel as though you have made a change to a certain extent? Are you able to kind of, because a change can be as simple as getting people to think a little deeper, getting people to maybe change behaviors, getting people to see things from a different perspective.
Well, I must admit I've had a few hurdles and a few bumps that I've taken on since becoming or being in this profession. I can tell you firsthand, it is very, very difficult coming from my perspective to be and to be in this field and to see what's going on and to have a strong opinion toward what's going on and have to accept some things you just can't change. All right, you just can't. As much as you could try, and it's going to take years and years, but I do feel like with the squad and the people that I work with directly, I've impacted them.
Okay.
And
that's where it starts.
I've made them see our understanding, if that makes sense. Well, I've not made them, but I've given them the opportunity to see our understanding.
Right.
And I think that's, as of right now, the role that I'm in, that's where I can. I was working with kids, but now I'm back on the streets working with the people and then working with my squad mates.
Okay.
And those people, as much as we sit in the powwow, y'all see us sitting on the trees and stuff.
Right.
We actually haven't. Well, you consider it nothing, but we actually having like legit dialogue about what's going on a lot of times, and it get heated. But I think that's the small step. Those are small impacts that I can do right here, right now. Okay. I've been doing that for quite a while, so I feel like with the new higher echelon of people, the more people I talk to or impact, they're gonna have that in the back of their head. Of, this is how we see things, as our people. Okay.
So the dialogue that is happening these days, I have a couple different people that I know within law enforcement, locally as well as in other places. And the dialogue that is coming up now is the fact of, being an African American in today's climate is tough. It looks a little different. And there are some people who feel like they don't understand that. They don't understand that there's a difference between, or that there is a such thing as white privilege. They don't understand that there is a such thing as being judged and seen in a certain light before even knowing what's going on. As someone that works in corporate America myself, I see that a lot in my position, being seen as maybe not on the level of some of my peers. Is there a difference for you between GA in law enforcement versus GA, the man every day outside of law enforcement? Do they coincide? What does that dynamic look like?
Well, I can definitely tell you, outside of law enforcement, you're going to get the authentic GA, if that makes sense. Now, in law enforcement, there's a certain standard that all of us in this profession abide by, all right? And that's all based on policy and procedure. It's all based on law, all right? At the end of the day, that's our governing body. That's what guides us to do our jobs effectively. But outside of law enforcement, I'm GA. I want people to be comfortable with me, and I want to be comfortable around people. So I deliberately get away from anything law enforcement. Okay. All right. I don't bring it home with me. I don't like to talk about it, even though we talk about it now. I don't like to talk about it. I like to be comfortable around people. I don't want people seeing me as, oh, Or to go Johnny Law, he gonna lock us up.
Johnny Law.
You know, or he can't have fun, or you can't take a shot with me, or nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not who I am. But at the end of the day, my bottom base principles always remain the same. That's the golden rule, man. I treat everybody like I want to be treated.
Okay.
So that's even in my profession, and it's how I am across the board.
Okay. So as a Black man, and then a Black man in law enforcement, I kind of put some polls out on different social media accounts to kind of see where people's heads are at with this, right? And what came back to me was, Black people as a people, and I'm just generalizing right now, feel that there is a fear for cops, law enforcement in general.
Mm.
Do you feel like that's a real thing?
Are Black people naturally afraid of cops?
Yes.
Well, we ought to be. I mean, how did we encounter cops to begin with? I mean, it's a long history to be absolutely ignored or ignorant of it and act like it never happened is ridiculous. All right, there's a long history. The first cops since their inception here on this great land, it was slave catchers.
Facts.
Okay, we were slave catchers. So whenever we see a guy with a badge and a gun, we've been running since we've been here.
It's kind of embedded in the DNA.
It's kind of it. So you can't expect the people, especially a group of people, just to be like, nah, bro, y'all cool now. That ain't how that is. And it's no different than anybody. You might call it a stereotype. You might call it history. You might call it whatever you want. It's been there. It's ingrained in our people since we've been here on this country.
Facts.
All right. So for us to just completely just like, well, we're going to take your word for it, bro. Y'all ain't like that no more. No, you have absolutely right.
And to take it a step further, with me asking you about GA the man versus GA in law enforcement, like when we have all of these cases going to trial and making big news, and everybody's talking about, the numbers and the frequency of Black and brown persons being killed by police officers, is this conversation that is actually happening amongst law enforcement, both Black and brown folks and white folks? Like, are y'all having these discussions when these things happen? Is it kind of shush in the workplace, or like, how does that work?
Well, you got to think when it comes to these departments, it's normally more our culture is outnumbered,
Facts.
tremendously in every department. So for us to bring up these situations in these departments when we're surrounded by people who don't look like us, that's the biggest question. Okay, what's really going to get done? Are people actually going to listen to what we have to say and how we feel about these circumstances and these issues that's going on? Or are they like, nah, man, you're seeing it the wrong way? All right. Or do we just step back and remember, we got families, we got people, looking up to us and watching and waiting on us and caring about us? Do we put ourselves on the line and say, hey man, you know what? That was jacked up, bro. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't know. It's an awkward place to be in because you feel like you want to help, you want to make a difference, but every time you do, you kind of get shut down by the majority. All right, because there's a lot of people who don't look like us, and people just say, yo, how would you say? Don't play that card.
So does that deter you from having those conversations because you feel like they're not going to listen, or
it will deter anyone from having those conversations in a group of people. But say you were one-on-one, or say you impacting that direct squad that you work with, doesn't deter you then, because these are people that's with you. These are people, hey, we're finna go on this call, understand where I'm coming from, as I want to understand where you're coming from. And then when you get mad about something that somebody said or it rubs you the wrong way, I'm here to help you understand, especially when it comes to my culture, what they mean. Okay, I could say about 6 years back, I had a friend come to me and say that to me specifically on the job, like, what's going on? Why are they so upset? Why are they so mad at us? That wasn't me. I wasn't there. I didn't do that. You got to break it down to them. You got to tell them, you want a history lesson? Well, here you go.
Right.
All right. And it's hard to accept because people just like, oh my God, why don't you just let it go already? Because at the end of the day, it's like a good mother who raised a kid right, send the kid out in the world, and the kid going out there just doing crazy stuff. All right. That's why he don't come back to mama house because mama gonna give him an earful. All right. Well, it's no different than a bad cop. All right. We trying to tell you something. Not a bad cop, but a person who don't know no better. All right. He don't know what went down, or he don't care about what went down because he didn't do it. But the history is there, and these people know the history. For the record, anybody watching, Black folk give their children history on what's occurred, especially in their local communities.
Thanks.
Okay, so you just can't roll up on any call in our community and think there's no history about the man toting that gun and badge,
right,
abusing his authority.
Right.
All right, they're gonna know about it. All right, it's gonna be hard for them to separate this person who looks like the person who did what they did back in the day from the person that's now.
Right.
It's gonna be hard. So you gotta explain it to them. As a deputy, as a Black deputy, Sammy, I try my best to explain it to them. All right. Sometimes they don't get it, and sometimes they get frustrated. But at the end of the day, finding things that they can relate to and giving them that example makes them understand. You tell us all day, forget about it. It's not, so much has changed. We ain't gonna never forget 9/11. Hey, we got shirts saying never forget.
Right.
You want our people just forget this? How and why?
And it's hard to forget something that's still happening.
Bingo. May not be happening as it may not be happening like it was in some cases, not directly. Okay, people are still getting shot.
Yes.
Okay, we're not being hung from trees and burnt.
Right.
Okay, that's what I mean.
Sometimes,
but it's still happening. We're still losing lives.
Right.
At the end of the day, no matter how you do it, we still losing lives.
And
so
right here in our community as well. So let me ask you a question. So I was having a conversation with someone else in law enforcement about the way in which you guys are trained to de-escalate situations or bring somebody in or whatever the case may be, when it's appropriate to use excessive force versus, I don't even know what the other alternatives to that would be. But like, how are you guys trained to look at these situations? What warrants, okay, I'm going to kill this person or I'm going to shoot versus I'm going to try and detain this person without drawing my gun and firing?
A legitimate threat of life or loss of life in any situation. So if I fear I'm going to lose my life, or I fear that the person I'm trying to protect or engage with will lose their life, deadly force is authorized. Now, when I say that with, how else to explain this? It's all about articulation. All right. I think if we don't know that, we should know that as a people. It's all about how we articulate the facts. Okay. I can explain to somebody how I was in fear of my life according to the law, and it end up being justified.
Right. Well, clearly, we see that all the time.
All right. I can tell you from my experience, I've been on this job 13 years and I've only had to pull my gun once.
Okay.
All right. And that was legitimately a deadly situation. Okay. Most of the time, if you have what we call people skills, being able to talk to somebody, you could talk down those situations to where you ain't gonna go hands on with nobody. I ain't been in a fight since I started here. Okay. It's just been one of those things. If you can talk to people, you're gonna be fine. And if you can see people the same way you see yourself, go to rule, you're gonna be fine. The problem is,
and we're definitely gonna talk perfect lead in, because when you say these people skills and being able to talk to people and being able to articulate what's what, even in the situations when you get pulled over. Naturally, I feel like, as we just stated, African American people are afraid of the police, law enforcement in general. It is ingrained in us to be fearful of them because we don't know what that situation is going to entail. I can count, plenty of times where I have had encounters with police, and I have been afraid that, am I going to be able to go home after this situation? I've never been in trouble, never been arrested. I don't have a record. Nothing about me says, I'm not loud. I'm not, I speak to people with respect. But I'm still afraid that even with all of that, there may be a situation of 1, power, 2, ego, and 3, just don't care. Because the truth of the matter, for me, how I feel is that there literally is a lack of respect of life when it comes to African Americans. Now, I'm sure not everybody feels that way, but that's my personal opinion. I've heard these conversations, I've seen certain things, and that's the conclusion that I've drawn. Everybody like that? Sure, not saying that at all. But that's why I feel I generalize, and the majority of is that there is a lack of respect for African American life. The conversations that we have with our brothers and cousins and sisters and children is, when the police come, this is how you act. Black people are like training their family and friends to behave in a certain manner when they're in the presence of the police. That training is out of fear that you will lose your life. On the other end of that, I feel like these conversations are not being had in the same way with those counterparts. It's more of a, I'm here, they're there. And, again, generalizing. So when you come, there is this sense of arrogance, authority. I don't even know what to call it, because I've had folks, and again, not all, step to me in a air of authority, but it not be arrogant authority. Like, you could be respectful and say, hey, I'm here to do a job, without, you know what I mean? Coming off as people skills, facts. So I want to ask you a question, because there's this whole Black Lives Matter thing, and then there's all this backlash of that with All Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, things like that. Right now, you are a GA. You don't have on a uniform, you don't have a gun, you don't have a badge, you just here. You get in your car to leave this show. You driving down the road, you get pulled over by police. Is there anything in you that says, in this moment, I'm a Black man, and I need to be a little, even though I'm also law enforcement?
That don't mean nothing. I'll be honest with you. Unless you got your badge on you, you got your ID, and you can be like, hey, this is who I am. That don't mean nothing.
And that's crazy.
You still a Black man in the car driving down the road, and if somebody suspects you of something, they're gonna find a reason to pull you over. And there's so many laws in the books in the state of Florida. There's a reason. There's always a reason to pull somebody over.
Yeah.
They gonna find a reason. If they want to pull you over, they gonna pull you over.
And I think that pulls away from that whole argument of Blue Lives Matter, because at the end of the day, blue is not a life, it's a color. Although Black is a color too, but Black is used to classify a group of people. But that uniform comes off. Your skin does not. So when you go home, and then people you work with go home, that life is different. That expectation is different. The way we move throughout, our surroundings is different.
Right.
Do you feel that it is fair to say Black Lives Matter? Do you feel like there's a need for us to say that? Because people are starting to say, oh, you don't have to say that because, you know, we get it. All lives matter. Everybody matters.
The only issue with that is, the whole all lives matter or blue lives matter was only created to combat Black Lives Matter. So
right.
That's I argue Black Lives Matter only because I understand the premise behind which it was created.
Facts.
I understand it completely. I don't have a problem with it. I like doing that. Too bad. You don't like that's too bad. However, the counter argument of all lives matter and blue lives matter, that's yes, your privilege or arrogance showing. You understand what I'm saying? That's you feeling like you being stepped on or being viewed as less than. All right. Because we or a slogan has been developed to highlight Black folk. All right. And it's crazy because it's all about how you interpret the slogan in itself. All right. Black Lives Matter wasn't meant to tell everybody that we better than everybody.
Thanks.
It was to highlight what's going on so you can see or get an understanding. Hey, look, our lives matter. Look how we passing here. Not to say that y'all ain't no different, but we passing at an inordinate rate. Pay attention.
Right.
Please. This is our cry for help in so many other ways, and we need the rest of the world to see this.
Thanks.
But to come at us or to come at Black folk with all lives matter, that just shows your reluctance to understand the plight.
Right.
I think Shannon Sharp said it best. It's like if you have a Black friend and you don't empathize with their plight right now, he's not your friend. You know Black people.
Right.
You just know that person.
You don't have a Black friend.
You don't have a Black friend.
You know a Black person.
Okay? Because your real friend is going to empathize with your pain.
Right.
They're going to be there for you. They say, hey, man, I want you to see I don't really, agree with all this. I got your back. So if you have any problems, any issues, come on, we can talk about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We ain't had none of that.
And with that, because the idea behind Black Lives Matter versus all lives matter, we wouldn't have to say Black Lives Matter if all lives mattered. Precisely. Like clearly there's something happening here. Like you said, it's more of a raising awareness. Like, hey, look at this situation, which you can't help but see it because it's everywhere. With the media and the way social media works and how things are so public now, you can't help but to see the different things that are happening. And it's crazy. If you were in a situation, because then something else that came up with this dialogue was how cops kind of rally behind one another and they protect one another. And we see this sometimes with some of these cases that go mainstream where one cop does the deed. But then there's other cops that are there when it happens and nobody's saying anything, nobody's doing anything. They'll know that this person is wrong. They don't speak out. Like, have you ever been in a situation where someone that you were working with did something that may not have been right? Are you checking them on it? Are you calling them out? Are you not even telling, but like if something came up, like what does that look like for you?
Speaking with them directly, yeah, you can do that. You should do that if you feel some type of way about it. However, as a Black cop and department, in these particular departments, make sure to be aware that if you are doing that, that could open you up to some type of, punishment. And it might not be directly because of that incident, but it will be something else on the road. Okay. I think as a Black cop, especially in this country, we got to always remind ourselves that we are the minority and a majority profession of white folk. Okay. And as much as we can fight and climb to get to an equality level, kind of got to do it in baby steps. It sucks and it's messed up, but at the same time, if I see a cop out there doing something wrong, but I'm not alone that see it, all right, and 3 of the other cops who don't look like me are there with them supporting that cop, but I don't agree with what happened, you outnumbered here. That story of how you feel. How you feel. You can say to him directly. All right. You can say it to him directly, but even if you do say it to him directly, That's going to get back to your squad. That's going to get back to your supervisor and your lieutenant. So you can ask yourself it. It's a lot of time you want to say that, but I would definitely say it to that cop with caution. I guess I could say.
Because at the end retaliation, that's so sad.
That's just the truth, and I think it was a CNN panel on that. Though this has been going on forever, man. It's not nothing new, though.
Yeah,
it's not nothing new, and that's why I say how you impact this particular culture, how I'm doing it. That's why I make this one person at a time, and we sit down and have these powwows about social issues that's going on in our country.
Right. I feel like that happens across the board, though, not even just in law enforcement, but just corporate America in general. We are the minority, point blank, period. So when certain things happen, it's kind of difficult to speak out against the masses, out of the fact that it can turn around and it's be a bad situation for you, which is really an issue in itself.
It is very frustrating. And you want to be able to speak your mind and be clear, and you want to believe that the higher ups got your back no matter what. That whole Band of Brothers thing, man, that should only apply.
Band of Brothers, that's what it's called, not cops looking
that only. Well, okay, so articulation, I already spoke on that. Okay, so if the situation goes bad and I'm not there or whatever, and it's all them, all you know about that situation is what's been articulated. If we don't have, cameras or nothing like that.
Right.
All right. And I just told you, every stop, every probable cause affidavit, every arrest can be articulated according to the law. All right. Interpreting the law is for lawyers and judges. We are supposed to interpret it too, but onto our level. All right. We don't go beyond that. We just need to make the arrest. It's so many different ways to articulate
facts.
All right. So many different ways to articulate something that didn't happen precisely as one would see it. All right. Example. I was wrestling with this guy and I pinned him to the ground. I used the arm bar and I got the cuffs on him and we subdued him and he was arrested. Simple enough. That's perfectly articulated. Versus he swung at me. I uppercutted him. All right. I bammed him on the ground as hard as I could. I put my arm behind him. Gave him a strong arm bar or whatever. Jacked him up good. Even probably tased him. All right. I put him in the car. And then when you go to your level of force, you got, this is what I did according to policy and how I articulate. Done and done. That's where the cameras come in. Everything. I think we have a situation right now where a situation occurred. I think it's going on social media where a cop explained something that happened. Never was looked at. And 20-some odd years later, there's a video showing up what actually happened. Yeah. And it don't match up to what was actually said. But by that time,
damage is done.
It's already been done. And your family member or whoever done got their life taken away from them one way or the other.
Right.
It's all about articulation.
And that's kind of like I was having a debate with one of my good friends who's in law enforcement. And there was a situation more recently where a young girl called the police because some girls were at her house to fight her. And there's a video of this police officer coming up. The girl had a knife in her hand or a fork, something. I think it was a knife. And she comes out of the house, she's running. There can be a bit of a discrepancy of like who she was charging at, and the policeman shoots her, she dies, right? And so in having this conversation with my good friend, she was kind of telling me from the law enforcement side of it, like if I see somebody charging with a knife and I don't know where you going, it's not clear what's what, that is, okay, fear of my life. I shot because either she was going to stab me, she might have been about to stab the other person. I'm just getting on the scene. I'm not really sure who called. It's just a lot going on. So
it's like that similar situation where the girls came to that girl's house up north or whatever, and she came out the house. They called the police on the girls that come to fight her.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, That's your friend?
No, I'm saying my
say,
friend was. We were talking
okay.
about that situation.
Well, in that situation, it's justified.
Exactly, and I think the feeling behind it, because we were having that conversation, you could justify that. But with the climate that we're in, it just kind of makes people. It was so many people in an uproar about it, and it was like, why the deadly force? Why the deadly force? And although it can be justified, I think it was just so much of like, this keeps fucking happening type of thing, you know, where it's like, okay, even though that makes, and I told her in that moment, okay, I hear what you're saying, even though that makes sense, like, he could have tased her, or, you know, it was just like, it could have been this, it could have been that. And it's really hard to, as a Black woman, understand, you know, and I hear the argument, I really do, but I don't think I will ever be okay with, you know, and I think it's just because I've seen so many other situations where you got other folks pulling guns, swinging machetes, punching, fighting, all of these things, and they still survive those arrests. And so when we have these other situations that end the other way, it's hard for me to digest that this is, you know, I understand it's justifiable, but fuck no, it's not.
Well, that shoot particularly was justifiable. You gotta put everything in its own individual perspective, because that situation, that's a justified pursuit. All right, it just was. All right, you can't have somebody charge somebody with a knife and think they just gonna. We as cops, our job is to protect lives.
I get it.
That girl was gonna stab the other girl. Not only that, tasing that person or getting your taser out, trying to tase that person before she got there, isn't a certainty. Okay, it's just not. Shooting that person in the leg, I don't care how good of a cop you is, trying to hit somebody who's running in the leg, bro, you're gonna miss. You're gonna miss. We taught the students in a mass. Okay, stop the threat. That's the only thing that person could have done in that absolute moment. That's a justified suit. All right. However, you got other cases, like the case in Chicago. All right, where the kid is running down the alley.
Yeah.
Remember that? And the cops chasing him. Dude got a gun. He actually had a gun. But the cop's giving you directions to turn around, drop the gun, put your hands in the air, and you turn around, you toss the gun, and put your hands in the air, and you get shot. That's a split-second decision. However, you can't ask somebody to follow your commands and you still shoot.
Right.
So that's one that's going to be, I personally don't agree with that one, but that's the one that's going to be, in some time, it's going to make headlines. Because that's your fight right there. That is your fight. If you giving somebody commands, drop your gun, turn around and see your hands, and they do exactly that,
and you still shoot.
And you still shoot because you were in a tunnel vision zone, your OODA loop or whatever, and you ain't paying attention, you're wrong. You're wrong. But here you go again. That articulation.
Yeah.
It's gonna get that.
It's so sad. It's really just like an ongoing, and I think conversations like this and having these conversations, anybody that's out there that's watching that is law enforcement, feeling secure in having that dialogue with, you know, the people that you work with, and just, you know,
it's not always easy, because even after I have my conversation with my squad mates, they don't talk to you for a few days.
Yeah.
You know, it's just what it is. It's like they feel some type of way. Hell, Trump was a huge topic.
Oh, I'm sure.
A huge topic. And you do know, like, practically every law enforcement division or department in this country, partly Republican, if not all.
Right.
Okay. And they're going to support the president, and they're going to agree with the president. I mean, I don't agree. I'm sorry.
Right.
I don't have to agree. And then we will argue back and forth, and we're going to have these discussions that's going to get heated, and you're going to get your feelings hurt one way or the other. I might get mine hurt as well, but it's necessary.
Right.
It's necessary. You need to see where I'm coming from, because I don't look like you, and you didn't have the same upbringing I did.
Right.
All right. I remember when I first got the job, and I was working there, and there was people that's been there for years. Years. It's like, oh, my mom was a cop. My daddy was a cop. My granddaddy was a cop. I'm like, here. Oh. Okay. Well, they want some respect for that history.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. But if you telling me your folks were cops back in the day, laws were a little harsh for our people. So your folks will have to enforce an unjust law. I don't have no respect for that. Because if there was an unjust law now, I couldn't and wouldn't enforce it. What would you do? So if they told you, if we for some ungodly reason drop back into Jim Crow, okay, cops on the department, are you still gonna keep your job? Are you still gonna work here? You white, but don't bother you. Your job is to enforce the law. And whatever the law says, I'm gonna do. Hell no, I'm out like a light, player. I can't do this.
Out like a light. Out like a light.
I can't do this. It's just not right.
Right.
And then you will be having these fights, and people will be dying all over again. Unjust law is an unjust law anyway.
And I mean, at the end of the day, right is right, wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy that law enforcement is there to serve and protect, and they're supposed to be, you know, enforcing this right is right, wrong is wrong. But there's a lot of wrong on the other side of that badge. And it's like, how do we, you know, then the conversation then shifts to how do we start to combat that? Like, how do we start to usher in a new era when it comes to the relationship between law enforcement and the Black and brown community?
Well, it's going to take, just like it took with the civil rights movement, it's going to take white cops to start understanding. Because we do need them. As much as we don't want to admit to it, we do need them.
But what does that look like?
Man.
Just in your opinion.
A sincere understanding of the plight. Okay. A lot of times, this goes above the level, the ground level deputy. It goes above even their supervisors and lieutenants. Hell, it may even go against the sheriff, above the sheriff. It's political.
Facts.
It's all political. All right. Crime is a political drive. Okay. How do you think the sheriff's office gets so much money?
Right.
Going out and getting all this stuff. Okay. Crime happens. Politicians get paid to fix it. Fix it. Here, sheriff, throw some money at you. Make y'all paramilitaries. You can drive down the road with a tank. Come on, man. That's what happens. Crime. I mean, look at the urban environments. I say urban environments, but you know what I mean. That's what everybody calls them. All right. Why is it a high presence there instead of the trailers?
Facts. That's a very good question.
Okay. It's fear. Fear. Since the inception, Black folks have been kept under a tight leash in our actions. Okay, so you gather all these Black folks and you put them in this area, you think crime is going to skyrocket and go crazy, and you strip them of their ability to procreate, you strip them of their ability to make a life and make a good living and healthy living just like any other place, they're going to revolt. They're going to rise up. We need to put deputies there because that's where all the crime is going to be. We need to put officers there because that's where all the crimes will be. Not even thinking that's what y'all created. And the prisons get filled with a lot of us, all right? And the cycle continues. Because those folks who go to prison, they come back out, they can't find jobs, can't do anything. Cycle continues. This is a money game, all right? And it's money game made off the backs of our people.
So do you feel that there's a such thing as systematic racism?
Well, I just said it. Did I not just say that?
I just need you.
I think I just said that.
You know, people try to act like they don't understand.
I think I just said that.
Oh, okay. Call a duck a duck.
It is what it is.
Call a cow a cow. Call a dog a dog.
Strategy. We need more strategy. We need a better understanding because I think a lot of our organizations, like the NAACP, bless their hearts, all right, they go after and they try to get political with the sheriff and they try to help through the sheriff. Or with the chiefs or whatever. I remember, and this is my last take, but I remember when that 411 or 911 was happening. So I was there. I wasn't in uniform though. I was sitting there watching. And we had attorneys speaking, telling everybody how to interact with law enforcement. And then you had a panel of higher ups up there. Just talking. The people furious. Because that's when Rodney, all right, people hot, and I'm just sitting there like, I want to hear what they got to say. Those people ain't with the day to day,
right?
They ain't on the streets pulling nobody over. Those are captains and majors and colonels above. They ain't pulling nobody over at all. They ain't doing no traffic stops, all right. But they are supposed to be the ones that have the power to change below them. They are. Will they do that? No, they here to show face. What they've been doing since they've been here has been working according to politicians
Right.
and statistics. Why would they change anything? That's how we gonna get our numbers are down. We trying to get this money. How are we gonna get our guys raises? How are we gonna get this equipment to save our guys? How are we supposed to protect our guys? How are you gonna protect the community? We here to protect the community.
Right.
First objective. You get paid your money to protect the community.
Right.
The problem with law enforcement is law enforcement don't see the community as equal in so many ways. That's when people see cops, they cynical. Cops see the underbelly of American society every day. All right. People call cops, they ain't calling us to come have no party with us to have a shot.
Right.
Something going wrong. Somebody's life is about to be turned upside down. So when we get there, screamed at, yelled at, cussed at, or fought, or sometimes even threatened and killed. All right. But we supposed to protect these people every day. Even those same people who do us harm. That's the professionalism in us. We out here, we got to protect them. And cops get but cops, they get cynical. They deal with that every day. They get cynical and they just don't see people the same. To the point to where they only associate with other cops. And then they look at people. They'll see somebody walking up the street and be like, dirtbag. And I'll be like, why you a dirtbag, bro? You don't even know him.
Right.
You don't even know him. You're a dirtbag, though. For whatever reason. That's been their experience while working.
Sad.
That's deliberately, and that's the absolute reason why I don't associate with cops outside work. I need to keep my mind focused on being me. All right. So I can take this golden rule life and apply it to everything that I do. Because the moment I start harpooning on the crazy crap that I deal with on a daily basis for my shifts, and I take that crap home and I internalize it and I make it, but man, people just can't get it. They don't get it. And I start seeing everybody the same way even when I'm off duty. You ain't no different than you gonna make a problem. You're gonna be a problem. You're gonna make a mistake. And then you're gonna hope that this band of brothers is gonna be here to protect you.
Right.
No matter sometimes when you even articulate well, that band of brothers is very flaky. Very flaky if you don't look like the brothers.
Is that true?
It's a lot of griminess inside departments that we just don't speak on or talk about. But I can tell you, from my experience, I'm actually more concerned with how I look to the community instead of to other deputies. I don't have any problems with the community. In each and every community I've been in, I don't have any problems with the community. I do have problems with other deputies.
Yeah. And I feel like that is, so do you advocate for Black and brown people to be more like becoming cops and deputies and sheriffs and all of that?
I do. Because I think the best way for us to make this change in this particular profession is to implode it.
Yep.
Okay.
Because I could say as a citizen, I see them lights come on behind me, there's anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Automatically. I know I ain't even did nothing wrong. Maybe I didn't turn my signal on, or maybe, but it's this fear that it's going to be blown into something bigger. But when they walk around this car, if they look like me, there's this sigh of relief. There is this bit of understanding that at least if I'm wrong, I'm going to get a ticket and I'm going to go home. It's not a fear of my life because I didn't stop at the stop sign, or I ran the red light, or, I turned without putting my blinker on. Versus somebody else come around that corner. It's like they finna be talking to me crazy. I may feel,
that's and like again, that's just based on the history and what we've experienced as our people. I can tell you though, it's not so prevalent as we may think nowadays. It's still there, but not as much as it used to be.
Oh, it's definitely. I mean,
It's
as
still
far as
there.
just that feeling that
Or
I
the
have.
feeling.
So I feel like the more people that look like me will make me more comfortable with my interactions with law enforcement. But also, just like if you come to our community to de-escalate a situation, there won't be that fear from you that, you know, like how other people might come into that situation and the loud talking and the finger pointing. You get that. That's how we talk. We're very expressive. Where somebody else is like, oh, I thought they were coming at me. You know what I mean? So with more of us patrolling us, I feel like that would help.
And that's the key.
Right.
Okay. And you spoke on how these other situations are happening when people are coming at cops with knives and telling cops to fuck off and all that stuff. Well, they ain't afraid of them.
Right.
They ain't afraid of them. They look
Facts.
like them.
And that's the raw truth of it.
Okay. So, but you put us in that situation. Hold on now, partner.
Right.
Don't take another step. For whatever reason. And we not whatever reason. We know the reason.
Right.
But so how do we impact it? It's gonna take a lot of time. And it's gonna take a lot of time. But the problem is we don't want to be no police. Let's be true. We don't want to be police. It's the history.
Yeah. And just like how it is. Like it's kind of like you said, that politic piece of it, and that, you know, you want to be there to make a difference, but you already know, like, you're the minority, and you're there, and you want to make this difference, and you want to.
It's gonna be
at
hard.
the end of the day, it's
gonna be hard. It's a lot of work. I mean, I ain't had these grades all my life. Come on now, it's a lot of work. But we got to
definitely start somewhere.
We got to, because as much as we have this antipathy toward law enforcement and how we interact with them, the only way we make a difference is by ridding ourselves of that old history within the department,
right?
By educating people of that history and how we interpret that history, how the departments have been. All right, I feel like that's the best way to get it. And if it's just one deputy at a time or one officer at a time, so be it.
Yeah.
All right. So
be the change that you want to see. So if there's anybody watching that is interested and like, oh, I don't know, hit me up. I'll put you in connection with GA. Maybe he could be a mentor to sprinkle some gems and maybe, you know, see if you could be a part of being the change that you want to see. I think conversations like this are a great start. Call for people to have that dialogue. You got to talk about it. Those hard conversations have to happen, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, you got to be
definitely here for it. All right, look how time is done. That hour went by quick, didn't it?
Oh, I thought we still have some more to talk about.
We did kind of skip over the body cams and all of that, but you know, it's not the last time. I would definitely have to have you back. I kind of want to do a double dynamic, maybe you and a female law enforcement, kind of, you know.
I know just a female officer.
You do. So yeah, we'll definitely have to set that up. And, you know, like I said, the more conversations we have about it, just raising that awareness, that's what I aim to do with my platform. So we'll definitely have to get you back to kind of dive in a little more. Talk a little bit more about some more of this right here.
I appreciate it. I'm all about it. I talk about this all day.
I see.
I like this topic. So
it just flowed. I appreciate that.
It's authentic and it's real.
All right. Well, that has been another conversation on As Told by Nate, the podcast. See you guys right back here next week, same time. Let's talk about it. Thank you, GA, coming through.
No problem.